One experience that I remember the most is coming home on one of several occasions where the police were at our house. My primos and my brothers were on their knees with their hands behind their back in our front yard. My madrina and my mom were screaming off the porch because I guess the police had busted into their house and brought everybody out and had been hitting my cousins. And I was like, there's something wrong here. There's something really wrong. One of my cousins, she was yelling at the police officers saying, I want your badge number, give me your information. They turned their badges around so we couldn't see their numbers. She just kept saying like, this isn't right. We have rights. And then, I started saying, well, we have rights. And then realized that it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter, it didn't matter that no one did anything wrong. In the end, they left and they didn't do anything. And that feeling of just kind of disempowered, of just so vulnerable. One of these days, I'm going to learn the law and I'm going to, use it against them. I'm going to learn the law and use it to defend our community in some way.
Live from Gil Silva Family Studio in Salinas, California, the salad bowl of the world. Welcome to the podcast designed to inspire, the only one built with ganas.
You're going to work harder than you ever worked before. And the only thing I ask from you is ganas, desire, haircut. If you don't have the ganas, I will give it to you because I'm an expert.
From the founders of Gil Basketball Academy that empowers youth to play hard, work hard, study hard, and overcome obstacles.
People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Real interviews with real people about real life.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
And now it's time for Ganas, leading from the heart.
This episode was sponsored by Plaza Properties. Plaza Properties and Dan O'Brien have managed apartments in Salinas since the 1980s. Plaza Properties believes in the mission of the Gil Basketball Academy and is proud to contribute to our podcast.
Alberto Murillo es el hombre ajedrez. Representa las mejores movidas en la vida, no solamente académicamente para los estudiantes, pero económicamente y espiritualmente para todos. El ajedrez es el juego de Dios y de reyes. Representa el camino en cual un peón puede avanzar en la vida para llegar a su reinado. Los niños se hacen reyes y las niñas reinas. Pidan el programa de ajedrez en sus escuelas. Si un distrito escolar no ofrece ajedrez, pídanselo. Tú puedes ser, si lo quieres ser, tú puedes ser un joven millonario, pero ¿sabes qué? Sin más educación serás un niqué, sin salvación. Lo que quieres ser, serás. Debes pensar y planificar. Es el ajedrez que cumplirá tu ilusión de vivir como un campeón, ganando un dineral. Para más información, háblenme, Alberto Murillo, 831-206-6880, 206-6880.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ganas, Leading from the Heart. I am Jose Gil, coach, teacher, father, husband, and a lifelong believer in ganas, which translates to desire. I'm going to introduce to you my two co-hosts. To my right, my beautiful daughter, Nayelita, who's here with us.
Hi.
And to my left, my beautiful wife, Eva.
Hello. And it is a great privilege and honor to have the Alma Medina here with us today, a mentor, a friend, and someone I truly admire. Alma Medina was inducted into the Stanford Multicultural Hall of Fame. And, I went to school with her, so I know her beautiful heart and that spirit that she has, that she passes on to every single one of us. She got her BA from Stanford in 92 and her JD as well. And Alma is a pro bono attorney, alguien con un gran corazón y con muchas ganas. And so we are so privileged to have you here today, Alma. Thank you for joining us.
Perfect example of someone that leads from the heart. Alma, welcome to our show.
Muchas gracias. It's a real honor. And obviously with you and all the work that you do with the Gil Academy and, Eva, who everything she said about me goes double for her. Un gran ejemplo para todos. Gracias.
No, gracias a ti. And one of the reasons we started this podcast is we wanted to relay the story of these personal stories. You know, they're so powerful and can help others. And so if you can please start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, your family. You know, who is Alma Medina?
The mysterious one.
Well, not very mysterious. Very, very much like a lot of my friends and a lot of you out there. I was born in Melaque, Jalisco, which is a small beach town on the Pacific coast of Jalisco. And we came to the U.S. when I was about 3 or 4. My dad, Francisco Medina, came over as a bracero first, and then got a job working at a factory and brought us over. There were 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. One of my brothers has passed, so there's 6 of us left. But we moved to South Central LA. We grew up in South Central LA in a time where it was a very segregated community. It was a majority African-American community with a very small immigrant Mexican community. But our family had a lot of support, a lot of love. We were always close to our extended family, which is more than 100 first cousins. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Wow.
But that family unity taught us a lot about working together, about loyalty, about rising above any of your circumstances, and always being able to count on others for support. So I grew up in South Central. I won a scholarship to go to high school. I went to Windward School. It was an all-white private school in Los Angeles. And so I went from one culture shock to another culture shock. And I really got the skills that I needed academically to be able to go to school like Stanford and succeed there. But it was a big culture shock, lots of issues of race and also socioeconomic differences that I had to work through, and I still think about today. But I think it was absolutely worthwhile, absolutely prepared me to go to college and then law school. And the organization, the Independent School Alliance for Minority Affairs, is an organization that helped me get the funding and get admitted into Windward. And I serve on their board now, and we continue to work with students to help them have the same academic opportunities that I did.
Wow, can you elaborate more on that Windward, the culture shock there? Because I know it's it wasn't easy, and we went to Alisal High School here in Salinas, and predominantly Latino, 98%. And when we went off to college, the culture shock hit us when we went to college, right? Not when we were in high school. So
yes, it hit you early.
It hit me early. It hit me well.
Well, you were very young, 14, 15 years old, right?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for the culture shock. I wasn't prepared for any of it. I wasn't prepared academically. I'd been a straight A student all the way through junior high, and I got to Windward and started getting C's and D's, and I never knew what a C was. I didn't know what that letter was. Why was it on my grade? And I had people just really, the counselors and advisors tell me, that's okay. That's all we expect of you. Like, that's all, we know that's what you can do. That's all we expect. And that lit a fire in me. I was like, no, ahora no. Ahora les voy a echar más ganas que cualquier persona, because I'm gonna do better than they expect me. I'm gonna do really well. So that was one of the first things that got me, really going. But I had people always ask me, whenever nannies would walk by with kids, is that your mom? Or any of the janitors they were all Mexicanos. They're like, are those your relatives? Are those your dad? And I was never ashamed. I had really good relationships with all of them, but I was just thinking, like, first of all, they can't all be my parents, but just the idea that they hadn't been exposed to any Mexicans except as service providers in their communities. So it was just a lot of those kinds of things. And people would ask me, did my family have food? Did we have food at our house? Did we were in a poor community, but we had everything. My parents always made sure that we had food, that we had clothing. We didn't have fancy labels, but we always had what we needed. So it was just really tough. It was really tough. And people spent money like it was nothing. They would spend $25 on their lunch, and I was trying to spend $2. So it was tough, but I relied a lot on the workers at the school. So the cafeteria workers would charge me 50 cents for a $5 meal. You know, they just look at me and say, you know, pásate, llévatelo. And I was like, no puedo pagar eso. They're like, no, tú vete, quítate de aquí rápido. And I was like,
Yeah.
but and I think that the thing was that I kept all that inside because my dad didn't really understand why I had to go to a private school when we had a public school that was close to us, when we had free books
And free.
free meals, and you know, I didn't have to pay transportation costs. And even though, you know, my school at that time was $25,000 a year, I had a full scholarship, but I had to still pay for my books, for my food, and for my transportation. And even that for our family was a lot. There were 7 of us kids, and my tia, my madrina, and her 6 kids lived with us. So there were 13 kids that my dad was supporting.
Wow.
And he, you know, he was making, I don't know, maybe $20,000 a year for all of us. So, you know, I didn't want them ever to know what I was going through. So I didn't share with them all the, you know, the slights, the discrimination, the looks, the low expectations that they had of me. I just try to fight through it because I didn't want them to worry.
Do you remember that one day where that seed was planted in you and you told yourself, I want to be an attorney, I want to be a lawyer, and I want to help the people?
There were a lot of days, but the one experience that I remember the most is coming home on one of several occasions where the police were at our house, and my primos and my brothers were on their knees with their hands behind their back in our front yard. My madrina and my mom were screaming off the porch because I guess the police had busted into their house and brought everybody out and had been hitting my cousins and were just hurting them. And I came home from school to this scene. And I was like, there's something wrong here. There's something really wrong. One of my cousins, a female cousin, Concha, she was yelling at the police officers saying, I want your badge number, you know, give me your information. They turned their badges around so we couldn't see their numbers. And, you know, she just kept saying, like, this isn't right. We have rights. And then, you know, I started saying, well, we have rights. And then realized that it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter, you know, it didn't matter that no one did anything wrong. In the end, they left and they didn't do anything. Pero el susto que le sacaron a mi mamá, a mi madrina, los golpes que le dieron a los muchachos, and that feeling of just kind of disempowered, you know, of just so vulnerable, was like, I got, you know, one of these days, I'm going to learn the law and I'm going to, you know, use it against them. I'm going to learn the law and use it to defend our community in some way. So I didn't really know what it meant, how to do it, what I would do if I understood the law. I thought if you just proclaim the law, people will abide by it. And, you know, you learn in life that that's not the way things work. But that's where the big moment where that interest in me grew.
What is your biggest challenge and when did you learn from it?
My biggest challenge? Wow. I think my biggest challenge was trying to understand how to balance the education versus the reality of my life. You know, being able to go to college and have an amazing experience in college and then go on to law school and realizing that a lot of my family, a lot of my community would never have those opportunities, that they would never really be able to have the support, academic support, community support to have those experiences. And then I said, well, what am I going to do with it? You know, what do I do with it? Because I felt helpless not being able to be home. When I was in college, it was the LA riots. There were a lot of things happening in my neighborhood. You know, the 4 corners of our neighborhood actually burnt down. There was just all these things happening. And I wondered, like, why am I at school having an amazing experience? I love to read. I love to research. It was so much fun. And I loved my friends, obviously. But I thought that's in the community is where the work is happening. So how do I manage? I'm being pulled in both directions. And I had some really good advisors, you know, like Cecilia Burciaga and Miguel Mendez, and, you know, lots of folks at Stanford who said, stay here, get your degree, and you can help your community in that way. So I learned that, you know, sometimes you have to follow all the way through to get to a better place so that you can bring your community along with you and make a difference in that way.
Yes, and I'm glad, because I was going to ask you about that, the LA riots. It's something that I remember you going through and having a hard time being in college and having, a good time in college because your community was suffering. And so that's why I feel, Alma, you have such great advice to give because you've gone through so much. And so what advice would you give to someone who's pursuing maybe a career in law or, considering everything that's going on today in our society?
I think anybody who wants to make a difference, who wants to go to law school to help their community, because you can go to law school for a lot of reasons. Some people, they want to get, just a high paying job. And that's a great goal when your community needs that financial support. But when you're really trying to make a difference, I think you have to keep your eyes on the long-term goal. One of the amazing things that I got to experience is that we were able to, impact our community, impact the dialogue on race, ethnicity, on labor laws while we were students. So I think what helped me out was that we were not just going to classes and trying to get our degree, but that we had an opportunity to try to make a difference on our campus and stay in touch with our communities and find people who thought and felt the way that we did, who supported us and had that ganas and had that passion. So I think if you want to be a lawyer and you want to make a difference in your community, keep your eye focused on the long-term gain, and your community will benefit from all the efforts that you make now.
Yeah, you mentioned the Burciagas at Stanford that were huge influencers in your journey. But has there been other people besides or not at Stanford that have influenced you that were someone you looked up to? I know many of us, we grow up as Latinos and we don't have my parents were farm workers. Eva's parents were farm workers. We didn't have the attorney in our household. We're that generation, right? And so was there anybody in yours that maybe influenced you in some way, shape, or form to make you the person that you are right now?
Well, definitely there are quite a few. First of all, my mom, she didn't have an education, pero era alguien que luchaba por todos. If there's some way that she could help you, if there's some interest that you had, she was a person who would support you with little or no resources. She was always find a way to help make things happen. And she encouraged us to follow our dreams, to never give up, to take any opportunity that came our way. So, my mom, que descanse en paz, she was one of my major influences and gave me like that fire, that you have within. It came from her.
Like ganas.
Ganas.
Yes.
And then my teachers, I had a lot of teachers along the way who took care of me and showed me like what direction to go in. Like, take that next step, take this test, apply to this school, believe in yourself, keep moving. I didn't have that in high school, but those teachers that I met in junior high kept, they stayed with me and they supported me and they still support me. I'm still friends with my junior high school teachers. It's just there's teachers that really care about their students. I mean, obviously, some of my best friends are the best educators that I know, and they pass that ganas on to you. They look out for you in ways that you don't even know that you need someone to look out for you. So that was that. And then, there's just other professors, especially in law school, Miguel Mendez and Jerry Lopez. Professor Jerry Lopez, he's the professor at UCLA right now, and his whole his course and his view of the law is that law should be used to empower other people to represent themselves, to work for themselves, that we all have the ability and the power to impact the legal system and move forward. And so I learned a lot from his style. He does lay lawyering and how to represent yourself. And that's a lot of the work that I do, is to work with people to help them represent themselves, to help them communicate information about the legal system to their family members, especially when there's a language barrier. just, empowering the community to feel like they can make a difference within the legal system without having to go to law school and without having to pay a lawyer. So those are some of my major influences.
What is your best tip for making our community a better place?
I think you already, Nayeli, are making your community a better place just by, your work with the HEAL Academy, your, support with your parents. So I think, young people like you're already way ahead of where we were at your age. But in general, I think that you got to follow your heart. You have to, follow your conscience, follow your heart, really go for what you want to accomplish in life. Todos piensan, pues soy una, y una no es ninguna. Una no puede lograr nada, pero una es la que empieza, una es la chispa, una es la que causa todo el movimiento que crezca y que crezca, and you can't let that go. I was just, thinking earlier and talking a little bit with you guys earlier about how when we were students and we were trying to make a difference on campus, people always said, well, you're not organized enough. You don't know, you're not political enough. You haven't thought about this enough. You don't know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. You don't have the resources and all those things. And we're like, lo que tenemos es ganas. Lo que tenemos es el orgullo en esta raza. Lo que tenemos es el apoyo. Lo que tenemos es una a la otra. Nos apoyamos nosotros. And we were able to do things that at the time we didn't even know how important they would be or what kind of an impact they would have. And now, as we're older and we're starting to see really the things that were changed by some of the actions that we took, it's really amazing. So all the young people, échenle ganas, sigan luchando. Aunque sean solos, pueden lograr sus metas, pueden lograr cambios.
And now this one is kind of a follow-up question. So what do you wish you had known back then, years ago? That now, that.
La verdad, the one, it's not the one lesson, but one of the major lessons that I learned is that back then, I always was trying to do something and never felt like I was doing enough, and never felt that I was enough, and never felt that there were enough of us working together. And I've learned since then that I was enough,
Yes.
We are enough. Those of us who are trying to make a difference, those of us who really care about our community, those of us who feel that fire within us, we are enough. We are enough. We have the enough energy. We have enough talent. Whatever we can give of ourselves, whatever that is, that's enough. And I wish I would have known that I had enough back then. I would have
so true.
felt more confident.
Yes. Yes, because you're walking with uncertainty, right? When you're that young, you don't know if you're doing enough. You don't know if you're doing it right or not, right? And so I love that. That's great.
And there's people that are telling you that you are not smart enough, or that you're not connected enough, or that you're not experienced enough. And if we would just if we could understand then that we were enough, we definitely were enough. Today we are enough. Esas ganas que tienes dentro te dan esa fuerza, te dan algo especial, I try to think about what was special about that time and all the people, and I go, various generations, before me and then after me. So there's a lot of us. And I think what was different about those people, todos tenían ganas, todos tenían la fuerza, como el orgullo, la pasión, la energía. Sin tener nada más, con eso pudimos salir adelante y pudimos hacer algún cambio.
And just piggyback on that, your group, your close group knit of friends at Stanford, are doing such amazing things right now. I'm a big fan, not just because I'm married to one to my left, but it excites me. It excites me to see on social media, follow everyone, and to see the passion and the love you have for the community and helping people out. And, shout out to your husband, Colin, who's also an attorney, doing amazing things in the Native American community. We want to have him on our podcast, so you got to lock us.
He'll be on.
Yeah, you got to lock him in for the future, please. I know he's a hard man to get a hold of. He's a fan. Okay, so, but and it would be wrong if we didn't talk about what's happening right now in society especially because, activistas that we all are. And you and Colin being lawyers that are for the people and for the people of color, do you sometimes see something on TV and say, man, I need to, I want to get involved more. I'm going to do more. I mean, or they should do this. I mean, advice. I don't know, because, you see the NBA players now walking out and protesting. Pro teams are following, and it just gives me chills to see that, they're using their platform in a good way. But on the law part of it, it must kill you inside to see what's happening with in Wisconsin and in these places, right?
And a repeat, right, of what you lived through in South Central LA.
Yeah, and it's part of that frustration where there's a law, and then the way that the law is practiced, the way that it's put into practice is not the way that it's intended to be. It's not just, it's not fair. Yes. It's still about who has the resources and who has the power. So even back then, we definitely did not have cell phones. There were some videos, but we didn't have cell phones where people are communicating instantly and sharing information instantly. But even as we see a lot of the videos of the shootings and the violence, there's the police departments and the government officials still claim that we're not seeing what we're seeing, that we're not experiencing the racism that we're experiencing, that it's not happening. And it's always this experienced police officer's word against video, testimony, all the things that we have. And I think it's really, heartbreaking to see that we're still fighting this fight, but we'll always have to fight this fight. It's never going to be over. But I think that, the NBA and their position and their voices to, the world, because they do have that platform, yes, that's going to start to make a difference. And there's so many people that are working on issues of unfair incarceration and trying to get, if you look at all of the different cases that we experienced, and there are a lot, and it's hard to keep track of, but all of the victims or victim families have attorneys that are working for them and are trying to get justice for those families. Because even though it reflects major racial issues of racism in our community, there are also families that are being impacted, children that don't have their dads, parents that don't have their kids, spouses who are left alone. And there are a lot of attorneys that are working with those families to try to find them some support, to try to establish some precedent so that these things don't keep happening. But it's just a reminder that, la lucha continúa, hay que echarle más ganas. And there's a lot of people that are doing that. And I see it and I say, well, what can I do? But I also know that I'm not the only one who can fix it. I'm one person who can help make a difference. And I have to put mi granito de arena, para que se junte todos. And I think that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're doing. And we need all these young kids to, go and become a lawyer. Necesitamos abogados, no nomás para ayudar con inmigración y para ayudar con casos de familia, pero para poder cambiar todo este sistema, they can really make a difference.
Alma, it just, when you said, what you do, you're empowering the people to learn the law and to be able to defend themselves. It just brought, to mind, that documentary on immigration and I believe it's Netflix, or what was it? The Netflix show where the people are letting the ICE, people come into their homes when they can deny them access to their home. They don't have to walk in. And that's, just seeing that, it just broke my heart. And so bless you for doing that. And, hopefully we can get that word out. It's just, don't let them inside your house. They don't have permission to go inside your house.
I think it's an educational effort that has to happen, because it's hard when people come with, guns and with uniforms. They come to your door and you feel really, vulnerable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you listen to them. And the other part is, we have this legacy from Mexico about what police officers can and can't do with impunity, and that we don't have recourse, So there's a lot of immigrants that believe, there is no recourse to abuse of police power or, the power of ICE officials. And it's more about education and awareness so that people really know how to protect themselves. And that's something else that we need to be working on as a community.
Wow. So such powerful, conversation, and you're right. It needs to continue, and we could spend hours on this with you. And we got to get her back on the show. We got to get her back on the show.
We need a part 2.
Yeah, part 2. But, Ganas is the name of our show, Alma, and you exemplify that perfectly. As an involved lawyer, mother, and wife, you're constantly volunteering, demonstrating, your commitment to your community right now in Bonita and the San Diego area. But what advice would you have to our podcast listeners out there when it comes to this, the topic in our podcast, which is ganas, because you exemplify that perfectly.
Pues gracias. Ustedes también. It's pretty strange being on this podcast with Eva because she's somebody that I respect and love and have worked with on so many different things. So it's pretty amazing to be in her company as well. But I think in terms of ganas, hay que echarle todo. And you get together with people that are like you, and that's one of the biggest gifts that I had. I came into Stanford and I had older mechistas like, Gina Hernandez and Chris Gonzalez Clark, Julie Martinez, a lot of older mechistas who had been working on things for a long time. And they took me under their wing, and they taught me, how to get people together. And really they said, si tú tienes ganas, tú lo puedes hacer. Here, we're going to show you what we have. You go with it. Take it in the direction that you want to take it in. And then when Eva and, Gabi and Gloria, Leti, Lina, those guys came along, we did the same thing. We're like, here, ustedes tienen muchísimas ganas, más que nosotros, muchísimas ganas. Here, this is what we're doing. This is how we do it. You guys take it away. So I think that you need to understand there's a lot of people that have been working for a long time on all of these issues. None of these issues are new. In fact, that's what makes me really sad sometimes, that we're dealing with the same issues over 30 years ago. And even before then, right? We were there. These things have been going on since the founding of this country. But you don't have to start from scratch. Si tienes ganas, busca a alguien que lo está haciendo. They will help you. They teach you. Share with your family members, because sometimes people keep the ganas to themselves. And they don't know that the person sitting next to them, their primo, their tío, el amigo de la escuela, tiene las mismas ganas. And when you come together, it makes you so much stronger. You feel like you can do something.
Yes.
I saw the march that Josue was working in the community in Salinas when you had the Multicultural March, and to see all those people together, you think, well, one guy has an idea, the other guy has an idea. But when you come together, it makes it so much stronger. And I heard you guys had like a 7-hour march. And that's a lot.
Seaside, yeah.
We started cramping up on the third mile.
Yeah, and it was a relatively small group of people. It was a lot of people, but compared to some of the major marches, it was a small group of people. But the impact of that, of families being able to look out their windows or drive by and see people who care, eso despertó las ganas en otros y en otros y en otros. So, I guess my thing is come together with people who are like you. Find the ganas in other people. Share your ganas with people.
There we go.
And that's going to be enough.
There we go. Well, our final segment in our podcast, Alma, we call it the carne asada talk. It's a rapid fire.
We're gonna grill you.
Rapid fire. You imagine us in the backyard just barbecue and having good conversation. No. So we're gonna throw some stuff at you. And
pensé que me iban a dar un taco. Okay.
Ya sabes, whenever you guys come to our area.
After COVID.
After COVID, for sure.
But whatever comes to mind and straight from your heart.
Okay, so what's your favorite movie?
Oh.
Wow. I couldn't tell you exactly, but probably Cantinflas movies.
Oh, Cantinflas movie, okay. Chivas or America?
Soy de Jalisco, hello.
You gotta say it. Come on.
Chivas.
There we go.
Salsa or cumbia?
Cumbia. I'll go salsa, pero cumbia.
Cancun or Hawaii?
Oh, Cancun or Hawaii.
Me like
What's your superpower?
My superpower. Wow. I guess looking out for family.
Okay.
Okay. What's your favorite book you've read and recommend?
Wow, that's a good one too. Well, I've read a lot of books and I can recommend a lot, but I would say Tony Burciaga's Spilling the Beans, where he talks a lot about, Chicano perspective in a very kind of comedic way, but it sort of helps you understand a little bit of the history of California. It's a lot of fun. But,
Yeah, that's fun.
And our final one. What was your first concert you ever attended?
Wow. I think the first concert I ever attended is going to be really sad. Well, I know which one.
Bookie? Is it the Bookies or what was it?
No,
Y ya se separaron.
No, I'd never been to a concert and had tickets for. I got called tickets for a Rolling Stones concert. I didn't even know who they were. But my first concert was Dr. Loco's Rocking Jalapeno Band. Raza, Stanford University.
Yes.
1989. There you go.
One more. Motto to live by.
Motto to live by? Wow, model to live by.
You want a drum roll?
I want an answer. No, you know what? I know it sounds weird, and I don't have it exactly the way it goes, but it's just like live your life in the service of others. Just like
wow.
Yeah,
love it.
It's not a perfect quote, but it's that idea.
It exemplifies who you are, Alma.
And what a way to wrap up our show. Alma, it's been a pleasure, and we definitely got to do a part 2 with you because we didn't get into the nitty gritty stuff of some stories, but we'll get there later.
She has stories. She has lots of stories. Huh?
You don't have enough hours. No, pero muchísimas gracias. Gracias por el servicio que están haciendo siempre por la comunidad. I know you put your heart, your soul, and your entire family into everything you do for the community. So it's awesome that you're doing a show about ganas. It's awesome that you exemplify ganas every single day. And it's really awesome that you're giving your community a perspective into so many lives that I think otherwise they wouldn't be able to see. So muchas gracias y sigan echándole ganas.
Gracias a ti. And from our GBA family to yours, continue to lead with ganas.
And that's our show for today. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Ganas, Leading from the Heart. If you found this podcast episode interesting, please make sure to share with your family and friends. We have a valuable collection of episodes with inspiring guests. We'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the show, Ganas, Leading from the Heart.